Hi, boys and girls. It's Michelle Birdsong, the coping coach. I'm going to read you a story, King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. Can you see the book? I got it from the San Francisco Public Library, and I've not read it before, so this will be new for me. See, they have crests, and here's the family crest, which identify the different families. And here we go. And you see the knight on the horse? See the knight on the horse? Okay. That's a caricature. They didn't really look like that. No one knows if this is a true story or not, but it certainly is an exciting story. And when we're done, you can tell me if you think it's true or not. We're only going to read 10 minutes today, and then we'll read 10 minutes tomorrow, and every day after that until we finish the book. Let the king reign. Not rain like water, but rule. Reign, R-E-I-G-N, that kind of rain. The Sword in the Stone. You probably saw that movie. It happened that on a New Year's morning, Sir Hector Anton and his son Sir Kay were riding toward London. With them, sitting fair and tall on his dappled horse, rode Sir Kay's young foster brother, Arthur. He had been allowed to come along on the journey to see his elder brother, elder means older brother, joust in his first great tournament. Joust, I believe that means fencing, like swords, like that, jousting, I believe so. We'll keep reading, we'll find out what it means. We have waited long for this day, said Sir Hector, looking proudly at his elder son. Remember, elder means older. In the old days, when Uther Pendragon ruled England and peace was in the land, there were chances aplenty for friendly jousting and the courtesies of chivalry. Remember that word, chivalry. It's a beautiful word. Sir Hector looked sadly around the countryside. Now, he went on, we see wasted fields, and no one is safe from the wild beasts and robbers roaming the highways. Sir Kay made no answer, but Arthur nudged his horse closer. The boy was full of curiosity. Are you curious? You can learn a lot being curious. It's got its good points. For he had heard little and seen less of the world outside Sir Hector's quiet domain. This is what happens when there is no sovereign, no king of the realm, Sir Hector said. Okay, here we go. Next page. You liking it so far? They talk strong and to the point, don't they? But they speak a little differently than we do. This story was written many, many years ago. But why is there no sovereign, sire? Arthur asked. This is to be King Arthur later, I believe. Remember, I didn't read this story before myself. I only heard of it my whole life. When Arthur Uther Pendragon died, he left no son to take the throne. Merlin, the magician, advisor to good King Uther, promised that a new ruler would appear one day. He even named the magic sign by which the king would be known. But the lords and barons refused to believe him and began fighting among themselves for the throne. For they had taken care of their lands and waited as Merlin bid. England would be strong, but now the old knight shook his head and was silent. What of Merlin's promise? Arthur asked. Sir Hector looked at the handsome boy whom he loved as his own son. Merlin has retired to a cave to live the life of a hermit. Perhaps even to him it looks as if his prophecy will never be fulfilled. Sir Hector spoke on as they entered the narrow gray streets of London. Sir Kay was not listening. His mind was only on the tournament. How he longed for this chance to prove himself an able knight, That's not night like dark and daylight. That's night, Knight. That's like a hero, a very strong, victorious soul. Okay. If my fortune holds, he said to himself, before another day is gone, some mark of honor shall at last be blazoned on my shield. He sat stiffly in the saddle of his horse, in his polished armor, you know that armor you see in pictures, thinking of the trial that arms ahead. His horse was good, his spear beautifully tempered and sharpened, and in the scabbard at his side was a worthy sword. Suddenly Sir Kay reined his horse in dismay. "My sword!" he cried. "I left my sword where we lodged last night." "Let me ride back to fetch it," Arthur said. Before the others could answer, he was off. Sir Hector and Sir Kay made their way through the city to the meadow where the tournament was to be held. They had scarcely dismounted when, to their surprise, Arthur was back, flourishing a sword. Sir Kay stared at the weapon. He knew the sword for what it was, for he had seen it often, deep in its anvil in St. Stephen's churchyard. Eagerly he seized it and held it close, staring at the words engraved on the jeweled hilt. "Whoever shall pull this sword out of the anvil, he is King of England by right. Merlin's magic sign." Sir Kay turned to his father. "Look, sire," he cried, "the sword from the stone. Now I shall be King of England." Sir Hector looked pale. He gasped Arthur's horse by the reins. "How came you by this sword?" he asked the boy sternly. "How came you by this sword?" "Sire, I was riding in all haste lest my brother miss entering the lists of the tournament. As I crossed St. Stephen's churchyard to save precious time, I came upon the sword. It was stuck in an anvil on a great stone. It seemed a good weapon, and I thought it would serve my brother as well as his own sword does. So I pulled it from the stone and brought it hither." Without another word, Sir Hector mounted his horse, signed for Sir Kay to do the same, and led the way back to the churchyard. There, with his own eyes, he saw that the sword was gone from the anvil. Sir Hector thought of all the petty kings and lords and barons who had tried in vain to pull out the sword in the years since Merlin's magic had caused it to be placed in the stone. He turned to his elder son. "Give me the sword," he said. Sir Hector told Arthur to replace it in the anvil. The blade sank deeply through the anvil into the stone. "Draw it forth," Sir Hector said to his elder son. Sir Kay tried with all his strength. The sword did not budge. Then Arthur put his hand to the hilt, and the sword came out easily. Sir Hector and Sir Kay knelt before the boy. Common folk came running from off the street, and craftsmen from the houses across the way, all marveling and rejoicing because Merlin's promise had been fulfilled. Tomorrow we will read The Knighting of Arthur. Okay, can you see this? Okay, The Knighting of Arthur. All right, I hope you enjoyed the story. I hope you get mommy to take you to the library to get you some books. They have so many books, so many fun reads in the library. They have computers as well. And some libraries, like the Jefferson Market Library in New York City, has story time. And I'm sure in your hometown they have story time as well. Okay, so remember, say your prayers, love your parents, and be good little boys and girls. Until I see you tomorrow, I hope you enjoyed our storytelling time. This is Michelle Birdsong signing off for now. Goodbye.